So welcome to the Riversun source block, and we're going to take you on a tour through 40 years of importation of grapevine varieties and clones. Starting first with the Chardonnay selections, but just before we do that, there's a couple of things you need to bear in mind. If you look down the row, you'll see we're on 3.5 metre wide spacings and 3.5 metre high canopy. And essentially that's because here we are growing propagation material for our nursery business. However, in the first 3 bays of every row, we are holding fruit so we can compare clones and, across the season. So that's the first thing. Second one is everything in here is ungrafted. It's important to realise there are over 80 viruses of grapevines around the world. In New Zealand we know of about 20. Every time you introduce a virus into a clone, there is a chance of significantly or subtly changing the clonal properties. So to avoid that risk, everything in here is not grafted. And the third point is that they're growing on classical Gisborne alluvial soils, very deep and very fertile. We're talking 10 metres of pure silt. So if you bear all those things in mind, and the last one is we are in organics transition, so a lot of copper sulphur sprays and biologicals, seaweed products. So if you see any deposits on the berries, that explains it. So, okay, now let's move down the road. The first one we're going to look at is Chardonnay Clone 6. So just before we start looking at Chardonnay Clone 6, I do just want to cover off 3 other importations. So as part of the 40-year history, the first properly documented importation was Chardonnay Mendoza, bought back in the early 1970s from CSIRO in Western Australia. So Chardonnay Mendoza, it's not in this block. The reason for that is it's well known by everyone in the industry that it's infected with leaf roll type 1. And as I explained, we work very hard to make sure this is a very clean block from a virus perspective. So that's why we don't have it planted. Having said that, it's a very good, a very highly regarded clone, even to this day, and is quite widely planted. Typical characteristics of Chardonnay Mendoza: a lot of hen and chickens, big and small berries, moderate yielder, and makes very good quality wine. So a lot of winemakers love it. We will talk a little bit more through this tour about that as we compare other clones. 2 other clones, also not in this block, were importations from University of California in Davis, clones 4 and 5. They came in again in the 1970s, I think it was. Now, we're quite widely planted in this region, well known for having very big bunches, big berries, and very productive, but as a result very susceptible to botrytis. So they fell out of favour during the 80s and early 90s and were soon replaced by Chardonnay Clone 6. Now I'd like to introduce you to my good friend and colleague Nick Hoskins. Nick is a highly respected viticulturalist, has his own consultancy business and vineyard management company. Riversun's been a very long-term client of Nick's, and through the whole journey of importation, clonal selection, certification program development, we've worked very closely on that since the mid-80s. So Nick, can you talk to us please about what you're seeing on Chardonnay Clone 6?
Sure, Jeff. Yep. Just before we start, Jeff's already mentioned the UC Davis clones, which 4 and 5. They were all selected in those early days for productivity, and I think 6 is also very productive. Nowadays people are selecting clones for lower productivity and better flavours, so that's just the starting point. So this clone 6 here, and you can see tight bunches. There's not a lot of elasticity in there, and that's a problem for botrytis, which we'll have a look for in a minute. Again, another bunch here, very tight, not a lot of movement there, and some of these berries are starting to be squeezed off. I have to say I have seen it, Chardonnay Clone 6, more productive and tighter in Gisborne. This year's actually quite good. So if we come down the row, we'll hopefully, or not, see some botrytis. Yeah, here's a bunch here that's so tight that one of those berries I showed you before is pushed off, and it's allowed the chance for botrytis to start developing in that bunch. Not too bad at this stage, but it's early days. We're probably only, around 18 bricks on this, I think.
So Nick, tell me what you're tasting on the Chardonnay Clone 6. I know it's fairly early in the season still, but...
Yes, very early in the season. But for me, the Clone 6 has more of those green apple flavours at this point, and it can produce high quality still wines, but generally a lot of it's used for bubbly base, some of it's used for lower tier wines, and most winemakers would prefer to use other clones in terms of flavour for their premium quality wines.
Another point to make, this is 2012 vintage. We have had in Gisborne and throughout New Zealand a very challenging autumn and summer. So in Gisborne here we've had rain on 20 of the last 30 days. It's been very cool, a lot of leaf wetness. So it's important to bear that in mind when looking at all the different clones. In terms, it's a great year to test their propensity for botrytis, or their sensitivity to botrytis. So with that, let's now go and shoot across and have a look at Chardonnay 15 in the next row.